Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. In a tale as old as time, old photos resurface of a new contestant on Zach Shallcross's new season of The Bachelor, which premieres, I believe, end of January. They pushed it back a few weeks. His season starts filming today, and one of the contestants that was on the finale of The Bachelorette live, they did a little whiskey cheer here. They drank some whiskey, which, by the way, if someone made me take a shot of whiskey, I'd be like, really? I've got things to do. I've got to drive home. Like, you know what I mean? Anyway, an old photo of her in a Native American costume resurfaces. And look, before you get all upset with the tiki torches and the angry mob and the pitchforks, we're not here to cancel anybody. We're not here to dox anybody. We're not here to unfollow them. We're just here to have a conversation. Just a conversation about why, with Halloween around the corner, it has been made apparent to some that problematic sort of practices are no longer acceptable in certain society. Now, this photo is from 2014. I don't know about you guys. When I grew up in high school, in our class, we would do the feather, cut it out with construction paper, and you dress up as a cowboy, cowboy or Indian or all these. Yeah, that all existed, okay? That all existed. And now we can have a conversation about why maybe that's a poor route to take. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals. I'm on Patreon at patreon.com/DaveNeal. If you want to check out behind the scenes content, I'm getting married in a couple weeks. Can you believe it? Put that ring on that finger, kid. And, oh, that's right. I'm going to have a nice bling just coming right at you. This nice... I don't wear any jewelry, so I need to make sure that I'm all polished up and ready to go. Anyway, if you want behind the scenes content on that, I'll have it on Patreon. And in other news, we didn't have to block these two troll accounts. There was these two troll accounts that were being very mean to other commenters, just spamming everybody. And then I caught them saying the same thing from different accounts. So we actually caught them. I guess it was this person had created multiple accounts, and it just goes to show how the internet's not real, and faceless people we just need to not entertain people that don't put a freaking face on their on their comments, because like, who are they? Anyway, Izzy and Sarah, we mourn your loss. You're no longer part of our program. Have a good day. Have a good day, sir. All right. So with regards to the Native American conversation, we've talked about this before with Eric Schwer's blackface photo that resurfaced from 2011 in his Bedminster, New Jersey high school yearbook, where he thought it was okay, and the yearbook committee and whatever teachers were involved thought it was okay to include this racist photo in the high school yearbook. And the question becomes, people say, well, he was doing it because of his love for Jimi Hendrix, so it's not bad because the intent wasn't bad. And it opens up the conversation about intent versus impact, and that kind of is what we bring up over here. Intent is how you think or feel. Impact is how your actions make another person feel. So you can have good intentions, and it can still lead to an impact that is triggering to others. A lot of people say impact is worse than intent. So even if your intent wasn't for something bad, even if this lady's intent here in 2014 wasn't to offend others, her impact would actually be worse. I tend to disagree with that. When you look at someone who's charged with manslaughter versus murder, in first-degree murder, you plan out a crime and then commit it. So your intent is to harm, versus a passion of crime or manslaughter where you might still get arrested and put in prison. The sentencing isn't as bad as intent. So with that example, I think your intent matters. And here, I don't think her intent was bad, but a lot of the issues that we have to talk about in society, intent isn't too bad. So Christina Mandrell in 2014 said, "Who wore it better?" Just kidding. Of course, my mommy did. Thanks, Mom, for letting me borrow your stuff. And it's her and Native American headdress and things like that. And others will say, well, she's just respecting the culture, and it does lead to a bigger conversation. The other topic we'll discuss here is Christina also posted at the NRA annual meetings event. So she's kind of maybe a gun enthusiast, which is fine. We have the Second Amendment right to bear arms. That's totally fine. Unfortunately, with the NRA, it used to stand for principles about like sports, marksmanship, and in owning guns for hunting and those types of reasons. And now it's really become about the NRA supporting gun laws. Majority of Americans support stronger gun laws. I'm sorry, the NRA puts money into making sure that there aren't as many laws, so it's easier to buy weapons. Does this make sense? In 2019, the NRA spent $3.22 million to benefit the political campaigns of senators who oppose gun safety legislation. So they are in the pockets of politicians, which is another example where we need to get money out of politics so that the NRA doesn't choose who becomes, our legislative body, right? So anyway, we'll get into that in a second here. But first, with the Native American conversation, the photo still exists. It's from 411 weeks ago. Somebody went and dug it up. And trust me, it takes a whole bunch of scrolling to find it. We tried to find it after it was brought up just to see if it still existed. And the conversation around Native American culture and clothing is pretty simple. Take it from this AmericanIndian.edu link. Native American is not a costume. Dressing up as a Native American is never appropriate. For years, classrooms across the country have included special days where students dress up as natives for different celebrations and lesson activity. Guilty, we were part of that, absolutely. Often the outfits people wear to look Indian have nothing to do with Native people and cultures. Native American cultures are vastly diverse and have a wide range of traditions that determine the clothing and adornment Native people wear. Dressing up as Native Americans gives students a generalized and accurate perspective on Native cultures and identities. Often these costumes suggest that Native cultures exist only in the past. We promote lessons and activities that share the continuance and creativity of Native American life and cultures. We ask that you and your students specifically refrain from making or wearing Native masks, headdresses, or imitations of either. We promote teaching about specific Native traditions without adapting them into your classroom. For example, in some Native communities, masks and headdresses are worn only by specific people who have particular abilities, have achieved a specific status, or possess certain cultural knowledge. Today, many Native Americans wear traditional clothing for social and ceremonial occasions. In some Native cultures, people wear their traditional clothing every day. Traditional clothing, or regalia, is an important and lively aspect of Native cultures. Many Native American artists and designers integrate contemporary fashion and tradition to celebrate their unique and vibrant heritage. Look, I understand when a white person wears dreadlocks, they might be accused of cultural appropriation. I understand there's so many different heavy topics that I don't have all the right answers to. But when Native American culture tells people why not to do something, I think it's important to listen. And Teen Vogue, let me tell you something about Teen Vogue. I don't know what it is about them. They're winning Pulitzers over there. They have better journalism than so much of the mainstream media. Native Halloween costumes are offensive. Support Native designers instead. So they're saying rather than just rip off some costume, and look, it isn't rare. There are ways to celebrate Native cultures without disrespecting Native people. So we have Hillary Duff and what appears to be Nikki Hilton. Is that Nikki Hilton? So clearly it's like, look, you can't compare well, Hillary Duff is in a pilgrim outfit, but I do believe they got into some sort of trouble with this. Versus, look, you can't compare it to blackface. They're different scenarios, but it is a similar sort of like a mockery that may exist. And you may say, well, I'm not mocking when I do it, but it's hard to differentiate between who's mocking and who's not when it is done. Cultural appropriation is when someone, usually of a privileged socioeconomic background, borrows elements from oppressed groups who have been historically marginalized. Appropriation affords people the privilege to wear someone else's culture without having to face the discrimination that members of the culture endure for doing the same. So again, I think a lot of times when people are scolded about doing things, we look at that as sort of let me search Columbus here. We'll look at that as sort of like someone who's better than or morally superior, talking down on somebody. Don't do this. And it kind of creates this like us versus them mentality. I'm not doing that whatsoever. A lot of these terms are new for a lot of people. A lot of them people learned just a couple of years ago or whatever. I think we need to have grace and space for this growth to take place. Otherwise, what are we trying to do? Just get people in trouble or have a conversation moving forward? After stumbling upon the land that would come to be known as Haiti, which is the island of Hispaniola, I believe, Columbus wrote in his journal, "They should be good servants and intelligent, for I observed that they quickly took in what was said to them. And I believe that they would easily be made Christians, as it appeared to me that they had no religion." He then took 6 native people as slaves, and as Teen Vogue previously reported, what followed was a total annihilation marked by thievery, rape, enslavement, and the brutal deaths of indigenous people. It was essentially made illegal for natives to be who we are. We had to fight for the continuity and survival of our cultures and lives in the face of colonialism. And as we all know, or most people know, now many native people are sort of put in native reservations. So rather, they've been sort of like paid off to exist in parts of the world and parts of our country after after the as the U.S. was founded and evolved, sort of like thrived without that sort of integration. It's a tough topic to discuss, and there's still plenty of land that was obviously stolen and things like that. And so anyway, here's Christina. She got proposed to and maybe married and had a kid, I believe. This is a while ago, 441 weeks ago, but she's going to be on this season. There she is, making sure that her nail polish matches her gun. Look, I have no problems with guns. I think most people don't have problems with the Second Amendment. I think the bigger issue that exists when we discuss, along with the Native issue, we discuss this NRA issue, is that people want sensible gun reform. They want to know that people that have guns have license that they have to renew. Just like if you're driving, you have to take a class. You have to go through the DMV every X amount of months and years. You have to get your license renewed to make sure your eyesight's okay. Very simple stuff, because driving a car can be dangerous, and not everyone has the right to have a driver's license, and not everyone should have the right to have a gun license. Now, the problem that exists with the NRA is that every time there's a shooting, mass shooting, there is fear that is stoked that increases the sales of guns. Gun purchasing has bypassed the size of our population. There are more guns in the country than there are people. Gun sellers' message to Americans: man up. The number of firearms in the U.S. is outpacing the country's population as an emboldened gun industry and its allies target buyers with rhetoric of fear, machismo, and defiance. So how do you put together dressing up in a Native American costume with the NRA? They're two different issues, and not everyone has to be on the same side of every issue. I think most people that I talk to, anecdotally speaking, that are on progressive issues know that there's not going to be a ban of guns. There's no attempt to ban guns, and yet the issue that people stoke for fear to vote this way versus that way is that they're going to steal all your guns. They're going to round them up. Now, don't get me wrong. There are different, not everyone thinks the same way about every issue. So that does exist out there, but like I said, every time there's a mass shooting, rather than come to some sort of sensible solution, there's this fear that something's going to take place. All I ask for you guys is whenever someone's trying to sell you on something based on fear, you understand that they're going to the simplest and easiest emotion to get out of you to elicit a response, and we need to be smarter than that. So I'm not selling anyone that we need to cancel this person or have this conversation or even demand an apology, because why accept someone's apology if it's done in hostile situations? It doesn't mean much to me. Let's judge people by their actions moving forward and understand that, we're a flawed society that is trying our best with the information we have, and we need to do a better job increasing the bandwidth and increasing the quality of information that enters our thought process. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.